go. We are starting the stream. All right, here we are. There we go. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to the Conservation Conversation. I'm your host, Eric Crown, and if you don't already know that, welcome to the show. And this is the show where we have everybody join in live, and everybody can go and write in comments. Join us here on YouTube, write in your comments, be part of the conversation. Let's all talk about what's happening today. There's been a bunch of changes in laws, so we are going to talk about all that today. Now, for whatever reason, we are not able to run live on Facebook, so we are going to start a live Facebook video right now. And like, this is the camera here. Hey, everybody, happy Sunday. Welcome back to the Conservation Conversation. I am actually streaming on YouTube, the show on YouTube. Facebook has actually gone ahead and disallowed me to enter in my actual show through my studio software. So in order to get around it, I'm just running it live off my phone. And hey, Michelle, thanks for joining. If you all have the ability, please go to my YouTube channel because you'll be able to watch the videos in its entirety. There are also going to be links on the YouTube channel. So again, my Facebook channel's been a bit censored and they won't let me actually run my shows on here. So I can just do this live workaround. If it's all possible, please go to YouTube, type in my name, go ahead and join me there, and you'll be able to see the entire videos there. Now, today we're talking about environmental law, and we're going to talk about the changes in environmental law, and we're going to talk about lobbying. We're going to talk about a few things that are going to affect us because as we have these elections coming forward, the most important thing to do is to think environment. So I just want to throw that out there, and I'm very excited to talk to everybody about it. Hey, Trey, and hey, Coralie. It's good to see everybody here. Trey, I got to spend some time down in the Amazon with, and Trey saw firsthand what we're talking about today, which is the complicated loopholes in the laws and the interests that run those loopholes and the way that those affect all of our lives and all of our health. Hey, Andrea, thanks for joining today. Again, everybody here on Facebook, I'm being censored by Facebook. I can only do these live things from my phone. They no longer allow what's called my stream to come into Facebook from my actual software. So if you can go to my YouTube channel, please watch it over there. You'll be able to see all the videos, and the people that are here on Facebook, I'll still talk to you while we're running the videos over there. So once again, hey Viv, thanks for joining us. And I know it's got to be, if I remember correctly, Viv, for you, this has got to be pretty crazy hour right now. But, you know, these are laws that affect everybody all around. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and start off. I'm just going to go ahead and start the opening, and then we're going to get right back to it. And we're going to talk today about environmental law, changes in environmental law, and how they affect everybody. Okay, here we are, and welcome back, everybody. Remember, if you've never been here before, if you type your comments into the, if you can type your comments into YouTube and hopefully into Facebook, you should be able to go ahead and get those comments on screen and join our conversation. So, oh, Viv, okay, 9 a.m., not that crazy. Depending on how the night before went, I guess. Okay, so today what we want to talk about is this complicated relationship between the environment, business, and us. Us as this moral sliding scale compass that allows companies to exploit the world around us and dump certain pollution and chemicals into the world around us. And hey, Margot, thanks for joining us. Hey, Barbara, I'm glad to see you here today. Always nice to see you here on the show. So, and again, everybody just joining, if you can jump over to my YouTube, you will see, you will be able to see all the footage a lot better there. Hey, it's my Aunt Betsy. Thanks for joining today. So, and listen, before we get into talking about all this, I want to say, just as a first disclaimer, I'm not registered to either party. I'm a registered independent. what we're talking about today is not politics. We're not talking about politicians. We're not talking about, because every administration faces the same challenge, which is to balance corporate interest and public health. Now, the problem is that for the most part, a lot of these politicians don't do that, and we're going to talk about why today. So, why don't we start off with a quote? Today, I always like to start off with a quote. Hey, Diane. Hi, Hannah. Thanks for joining. Just to let you guys know, hey, Camilla, I'm glad to see you on the show today. If anybody can watch it over on YouTube, you're actually going to see a slightly better version, and you're going to be able to see the video and the pictures that I'm incorporating. I'm being censored by Facebook, so I have to do my Facebook feed live. And the one on YouTube is actually running through my studio that allows me to add images. So that's another one of those things we'll talk about, is the limiting of the conversation when it comes to the world around us. I'm going to take this out because it looks like I don't know, maybe listening to music halfway here. Okay, so let's start with our quote today. The quote today, I always like to start with quotes. The quote today is, as long as politics is the shadow of big business, the attenuation of the shadow will not change the substance. And this is written by John Dewey. So, as long as politics is the shadow of big business, the attenuation of the shadow will not change the substance. So think about that for a second. What he is saying is that basically big politics are a shadow cast upon our society by big business. Now, that might sound maybe a little conspiratorial. It might sound a little bit crazy to some. I wouldn't blame you at all. But the thing about it is that this is actually how the country works. So we're going to come back over here. Now we're back on video. Hey, everybody. Yeah, Camilla, thanks for joining. Yes, Facebook is censoring my show. I'm not allowed to actually send my show into Facebook and let it run live. I can only do that on YouTube, which is a little bit more of an expression, an expressive platform. This Facebook, I'm just doing live on my phone. So here, wait, actually, you guys want to see? Here, let me show you real fast. So welcome to the studio. Everybody, meet everybody. Everybody on YouTube, you can meet everybody here that's on my Facebook. And everybody on Facebook, you can meet everybody on YouTube. So what we're doing is, this is my little studio area. And as you can see, it's pretty moderate. It's pretty easy going. It's the microphone. So what I do is I run it through my software, and then my software will run it into Facebook and into YouTube. Now, Facebook is determined after my show on the FWC and with Scott Wilson. They, I guess, have determined that I'm not allowed to output my show anymore. So I'm getting around it. I'm doing a live one straight to my phone. And if you're on YouTube, you're going to see just the straight old show. So again, let's go back to what John Dewey was saying. Now, let's just think about this for a quick second, because we have to think in terms of this upcoming election, no matter who's in charge, and each state has a lot of power, but what we need to do is find tools and ways that we can connect and learn more about our local politicians. Hey, Chris, wow, hey man, good to see you on here. Hey Trey, yeah, exactly. You know me. Yep, there's too much nudity on the show, of course. Anyway, it's always good to see you, Trey. Trey saw firsthand, we were in the Amazon. We captured evidence of illegal poaching. We captured evidence of, at a fish market, 5 minutes from where the politicians were, or where the enforcement group was. We took them evidence, and they just basically said, we don't have any funding. The one guy whose job it is to take care of all the markets said to us, we can't even afford paper. We don't even have paper. I'm not making this up. Trey can back this up. Crazy stuff. Now, that was in Peru, but it's not far off from where we are today. Now, what I want to talk about today is, hey, Terry, thanks for joining, okay, we have business, we have the environment, and we have us in between. Now, in between, we have both our need for resources, our need for a natural environment, and our need for health. And our health can come through a natural environment, a healthy environment around us. Hey, Larissa, thanks for joining. Larissa's good friend over in New Zealand, and Larissa is also an amazing musician, Lady Larissa. I'll put a link down here actually to check it out. Great music. But anyway, I wanted to, so what we're going to talk about today, now this is the same in every country, whether we're talking about America or a different country, where what we have are both groups that were meant to enforce the laws, and there are groups that are meant to write the laws. Now in America, we have an issue where we have a thing that's called Alec. Now Alec is the American Legislation Exchange Council. Now, ALEC was started in the 1980s by Reagan, and the idea was, let's give these big companies a fantastic way to express what their needs are. So let's let the companies go. And this is something big we do. Hey, Dave. Captain Dave's on with us, everybody, of the Dominion Tug. Great boat, amazing restoration project, keeping history alive. And it's beautiful to see because our history is in the water. Our history is in nature. We envision our history as wars or battles or politicians that were elected, and all that stuff is secondary to what's actually true, which is the actual history which takes place over the land, the ocean, and all the different areas. So what we have now is we have this thing called ALEC. Now, ALEC is an introduction in the 80s that allowed basically businesses to write the laws. So if you're able to watch on YouTube, you can see how it works. ALEC is a lobbying group. And if your company joins ALEC, your company is allowed to write legislation, pay legislators, and then try to get the legislation pushed through. We find that when ALEC was doing a lot of private prison contracts, we saw this huge rise in private prisons, which resulted in ALEC going around and trying to change misdemeanors so that there was more place within the law to land more people into the private prisons, and it was all part of running that. Now, once that was discovered, we all remember that, once that was discovered, ALEC was under the heat. There was a lot of issues for it. So if you can see this thing over here, what you're going to find is companies like Exxon, McDonald's, Koch brothers, Chevron, every company you can imagine writes legislation. Now, the problem with that is, what do they write legislation about? So if you can go check out the YouTube page, you'll see, hey, Heather, nice to see you. And hey, Dave, first-time caller, long-time listener. Excellent. Glad to have you and Heather on today. Two really good friends from up in near Seattle. And like I said, they're amazing because they're working on this restoration project. They are trying to help us understand the future by being in touch with our past. And what I love about this restoration project of the Dominion is that it has been done to maintain the integrity of the original build, which is out of wood. And it's pretty amazing when you think of all the thousands and thousands of years that people were crossing the oceans on things made out of wood. Now, those of us that don't spend a lot of time on boats, I've spent a little time on boats, not as much. It's pretty mind-blowing. It is one of the most amazing human achievements, and it's a way that we use nature to continue with nature. So there's a lot of value in maintaining that understanding that we can build things that are okay in nature, that work with nature, that are part of nature, that bring us closer to nature. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Dave and Heather because I think the work that they do is amazing. It sparks the imagination. It maintains history. It brings in a lot of information to us now, today, to understand and touch the past, which in America, we don't have a lot of touch with the past. So what I wanted to do now is show you guys over here. There is a ALEC bills that were introduced. And this is all the things that they actually write bills about. And you'd be amazed. There's biotech. They have over 25 bills that they have passed for immigration. What's ALEC doing about immigration? You would think that immigration is a topic that comes from the country, the people, and the government, and the understanding of that. But you got to remember, ALEC is about private industries that are hired lobbyists to write laws that will bring more business back to their bottom line. Hey, Beth, thanks for joining us today. So we have to really remember that because, you know, there's a big danger in this, in ALEC taking over and changing everything. So now we have this issue where our concept of what a law used to be was that, you know, some senator goes, gosh, you know, I'm tired of seeing plastic and oil on the ducks in my pond. I'm going to write a law and we're going to clean up the land. Does not work that way. What happens is companies like Exxon will go and try to change laws, environmental laws, in order to make things a little bit easier for them. So what I'd like to do is bring up one of the fine examples of where this, I don't know how to call it, where this collision between private need of company and private need of people comes through. And it's a place actually in New Orleans, and it's called Cancer Alley. Now, as many of you know, I have a cancer that is inoperable and uncurable. So I have a cancer that I have to manage. My cancer cannot be fully understood by my doctors, and it is, in my mind, an environmentally placed cancer. I've made a bunch of changes, and that has slowed down the growth of my cancer. But the fact that they cannot figure out what it is, and they keep trying to treat it like it's a genetic cancer, shows me that they don't have any idea either, as hard as they try. So what we need to do is we need to start understanding that the world around us affects our health. So Cancer Alley is a place between Baton Rouge and New Orleans on the Mississippi River, the vein of our history in this country for trade, for commerce, is now Cancer Alley. Now, what that means is there is over 100 of the world's largest companies, petrochemical, there's all kinds. There is DuPont, there is Chevron, there's oil refineries. All of these companies emit their pollution, and the average cancer rate for the people that live right on the river through Cancer Alley is 6,000 times the national average. Again, that's 6,000 times the national average. So this is a major problem that we have. This is something that we really need to think about. Now, the reason that I bring up Cancer Alley is, I'm going to switch that over. The reason I bring up Cancer Alley is this. Cancer Alley is a great example of, you get these companies to write laws that enable changes in overall policy that people don't think twice about. So, for example, recently there was a cutback and a rollback on how strict emissions are being watched by the EPA. And we're going to get into the EPA in just a few minutes, because I've got quite a few things to say about the EPA, and I hope you guys do as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the EPA. So what happened was they rolled back the pollution. Now, this was done through lobby-sponsored bills, through Alec, that enabled them to reframe the thing and say, well, my politician says it's got this talking point, this talking point, this talking point. Look, politicians are all owned by some company, one side or the other. The thing is, we need a way to know who the politicians work for. We're all smart enough to understand that it's not the story that we're told. The politicians we don't vote them into office. They go in and do really good things so that they retire and are proud of themselves, and they make $80,000 a year. By the way, not to get political about this, but they also have socially funded healthcare. Those of they in charge. Anyway, just throwing that out there. Meanwhile, they're fighting against it. Meanwhile, they have it. So who are these people, and what are they doing, and why do we think that they might know more than we do? It's utterly absurd that we feel that way. So what we find is politicians pushing forward laws. Now, how do we know who the good politicians are and who the bad politicians are? Well, the good news is, hello, Lei Young. Thanks for being on the show with us today. The good news is there's an amazing website I want to share with everybody. I don't know if you already use it, but coming up in the time where if you want to vote for environmentalism, you want to vote for clean water, you want to vote for a cleaner future, you're going to want to go to opensecrets.org. It's a website I like to use. It lets you look at, hey, Stacy, thanks for being here today. It lets you look at each politician. Now, the reason, for example, that I'd like to bring it up today, we just talked about Cancer Alley being there. We just talked about Cancer Alley being in the Mississippi River between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. So you'd think to yourself, well, people must be fighting that, right? There must be a way where politicians are stepping up for the sick people. So let's take a look at Open Secrets. If we go to the Senator John Kennedy, Louisiana, and we want to see what he's up to and who he's going to have to make his laws for. You got to remember, he gets campaign funds. So you can go to Open Secrets. You can type in any politician you want. If you are able to go to my YouTube page, everybody, please go to my YouTube page. I just want to share, again, everybody here on Facebook, my show is censored on Facebook, so I'm doing a live thing, but the show is actually running and you can see all the images on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in Eric E. Crown, my page will pop up, live video will pop up, subscribe, click the bell. When I get to 100 subscribers, I'm doing a giveaway. I'm 10 away. So we've only been doing this a few months. We've got so many new subscribers, so please join in. So if you can check it out, go check it out. So what we're looking at right now is opensecrets.org. Here is the man responsible for the health of the people of Louisiana. Now, if you start to come down a little bit, you can go into top contributors through industry. And if you guys can see that on the screen right now, top contributors through industry. So I would like to just point out oil and gas. Oil and gas is one of, hey, Valerie, thanks for joining us. Valerie's joining us from overseas. Oil and gas is one of the major industries that this man gets his money from. And you can see the amounts that he is raising it from, as well as real estate, general contractors, and lawyers. So this is the man who is allowing Cancer Alley to flourish. As a matter of fact, new companies are opening in Cancer Alley. Now, for somebody that has a cancer and is seeing this obvious disregard for human health and this just polluting whatever they want, it was very disturbing to see that recently they rolled back these the regulations on smoke and pollution. So we have a situation like in Cancer Alley where you have 6,000 times the national average for cancer. And now what little regulation there was that kept that at 6,000 times the national limit is going to be disappearing. And so this is what brings us to our next part of the topic. We have to be looking at what our politicians are doing and who owns them. Go to opensecrets.org, see who owns your politician. Look at your local council person. You know, we have a situation, Florida is a wonderful example of this. We have a situation where they are controlled by their extraction money. So they do a lot of mining. Now, when you go to local, so there's like 5 or 6 counties in Florida that do all this mining. When you go to those districts, you can Google who the current mayor is, who the current senator, who the current representative is, and every single one that you go to has money from the company that passes permits in the locality. So you have a company that does mining. They're putting out, say, $50,000 to a classic example is Mark Rubio. He's a senator. He's getting money from this mining company. Now, the mining company wants to expand into new areas. Rubio, he's at the top level. Things have been deregulated. It's down to the local level. He doesn't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually run through his office anymore. It runs through the local office. Now, this is the concept where politics divide. People that like deregulation think this is great because the government's far-reaching. People that don't like deregulation think this is where the problem exists. Now, the difference in perspective is, do companies keep us in mind? Are they taking care of our best interests? Is what's good for the company good for people? And this is where we have to really start to discuss this, because what's good for the company, what's profit-making for the company might not always be good physically for us. Cancer Alley being a prime example. They are all illegally poisoning the entire group of people down there. And it's fine. And the only people we have to protect us are the national regulators called the EPA here in America, Environmental Protection Agency. Each country has their own, and each country's is more than likely just as corrupt as ours. Now, I say ours is corrupt because we have a major issue in our country where currently the Environmental Protection Agency is being run by a former coal lobbyist. And in that process, they have removed tons of protections. They have removed protections from pollution coming out of gas and smokestacks that's going to lead to more chemical issues. They've removed regulations on the amount of lead allowed in drinking water, the amount of other chemicals allowed in drinking water. We still have lead pipes all over the country. And you would have thought that with Flint, that would have stirred in this massive thing. The problem is we have a huge machine running, but it's running on its own, but we're not part of it. We're just the ones getting sick from it. So this is why opensecrets.org is so important, because in your local area, in your local spot, you now have the power to go in, see which politician is owned by the person you agree with the most. That's going to be one of the things to do. You know, the EPA, aside from rolling back those things, you know what they've done recently, which is very disturbing, is they've allowed the rehunting, especially through Alaskan wilderness, of bears and cubs. And they've allowed it while they're hibernating. And they've allowed it that the hunters are allowed to shoot from helicopters. So, you know, these are endangered animals. And our environmental protection group has okayed the killing of these endangered animals. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. They're not the people that we need to be listening to. They're not the people that should be in charge. They're part of a machine. All of them are part of a machine. And the problem is who are we putting into the machine? We need to be responsible and look at it. That's why you have to go to opensecrets.org, and you have to look at your local politician, and you have to understand what industry is behind them. And is that industry helping or hurting the area you live in? There's no blanket answer, and there's no easy way to know that. And the last thing you can do is listen to speeches, and the last thing you can do is listen to the news and what they have to say about any politician, because all that is going to be their rhetoric, and it's going to be their fantasy stories that don't have anything to do with anything. They're going to have you scared and terrified of all these things that mean nothing. Meanwhile, they are changing laws that have to do okay, sorry. I'm gonna move this real fast. There we go. It's probably a little better. I don't know. So here we go. Anyway, so we need to be able to do that. Now, we have the power to do that. And the thing is, we have the power to make changes within our things. You know, recently the EPA, and this is one of the bigger problems, is they recently okayed an emergency use of a bee-killing pesticide on 13.9 million acres. So now this is a pesticide called sulfaclaflor. It's really hard to say. sulfaxaflor. Whoever can say it right, send me a voice message. Let me know how to say it. So this has now been deemed okay. Now this is going to destroy the bees, which have recently been labeled the most important animal in the world, because when the bees go, we lose everything. We don't think about it because in our world, we don't think cause and effect. We are removed from that as humans. You know, we don't think of the entire cycle of things. And a great example of that disconnect is something like SeaWorld, where they'll go and they'll see an orca, and the experience will be that we're going to go to an orca. But in reality, they don't think about all the captivity, the capturing, the death, the depression, and all that. So, and hey, there's Sally Bradley. That's my mom, everybody. Hey, Mom. Thanks for being on today. My mom lives in the most amazing part of nature, and I got to spend some time out there this summer. It was absolutely gorgeous. And they have fantastic politicians that spend a lot of time maintaining the quality of the water. Now, I say that because they have a lot of mining, and they have a lot of chemical work that's there, but they also have the cleanest water in America. So it can be done. You know, these two things can live side by side. It just requires responsibility. The problem is some people believe that if we let the companies take care of it themselves, which they call best management practices, BMP, that the company will take care of what's right. Well, obviously that's false in every way possible. No company their job is to not have a moral compass. Their job is to return on investment for their shareholders. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because that's what a company is. And I think a lot of times we're very outraged because we don't feel that our capitalism or our democracy is taking care of our environment in the way that we all feel that it should be. But we have to remember that that's not its job. And as much as we love to imagine it as a perfect ideal, we have to remember that it is a continuously changing, growing, altering, living thing, our politics. And it needs to be redone and it needs to be rethought of. I don't think, okay, I mean, if we think about medical and dental advancements since 1770, if you don't want to go to a dentist using 1770 technology and you're not interested in having some bloodletting, because I want to remind everybody that when the Constitution was signed, they still didn't know about the heart pumping blood. This is just to put it in a historical perspective. William Harvey discovered that after the Constitution was signed. So remember, the concepts and the precepts that the original laws were found on come from a set of knowledge that was as good as it was at that time. The laws were also placed at the time in the hands of the wealthy because it was thought that the poor weren't smart enough to vote. Now we still see the same thing with gerrymandering. And if you're not familiar with gerrymandering, I'm not going to get into it right now. But in many ways, gerrymandering is one of the most important parts of politics. We don't talk about it because gerrymandering allows the electoral vote and affects how each state will divide. So it's a very important thing. I highly encourage you to Google, check it out. But anyway, what I wanted to go back to is if we go back, we're going to talk about the fact that the EPA is now allowing them to kill off the bees with this. Now, this emergency use of pesticides. And you got to remember, pesticides became very popular. Companies like Monsanto that created Agent Orange brought back, and they had a bunch of excess Agent Orange. And they didn't know what to do with it. So they played around and experimented a little bit. And they found that it was an amazing pesticide for them. Welcome to Roundup. That's what Roundup became. And we all, everyone's very familiar with the history of this and the danger of this. But we have to remember that. Now, I was talking to people in Florida. Scott Wilson was talking about how they're spraying continuously because these are contracts. We have to remember the cities, it all comes down to contracts, which means who are your local politicians? Which means OpenSecrets.org is going to show you who owns your politician. All politicians are owned. There are no independent politicians. They owe somebody. Politics is a profession. It's a profession these people play for a long time, and they don't go in it. And there might be Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but at this moment, we cannot hope that will lead us to a better future. We need to get in. We need to be really knowledgeable of who we're voting for, what we're voting for, and what they want to do with our future. We always say, this is our world. Let's talk about it. Well, it is our world, and we are the majority. And, the fact that a small group of elite people write the laws that affect all of our health and all of our well-being is problematic. And it's okay because we do have a voice. It's not like we don't have a voice. We have a voice. So we can, yes, and Beth makes a great point. Beth says they also control most of our food. And that is true. Big ag, all these groups control everything. They set prices. They keep us, there is a ratio, where they know that things are going to inflate every year. And so when you have a country like in our country, you have every year inflation of a minimum of 2.2% adjustment. And then you have no rise in working wages. You have the middle class has disappeared. And now you have a big disparity. And the problem is that a lot of what it comes down to is a class warfare. A lot of the people that are hardworking, working class, are getting poisoned. I've seen this all around the world. This is happening everywhere. They dump their pollutants into people's water. And this is why, in Florida was a great example. People have very strong feelings about politics, but they've let it all go. in order to vote for clean water, in order to vote for their environment, in order to vote for their future. So I just wanted to bring up the opensecrets.org so that everybody has this beautiful resource as a way to navigate what's happening. And the thing is we don't have, look, I mean, honestly, they've made it so complicated that, what are you going to spend, 30 hours a week studying your politicians, studying their platforms, studying their owners, studying all this stuff? No, you can't do that. That's very impractical. People do rely on parties to help guide them. My personal beliefs align with my party, so I'm going to just do with what my party says. But this is what got us here. We having this two-party division is where we are now. And in the end, all we have is a much sicker society. We have a lot harsher illnesses and problems, and we're further from a solution, and we're further polarized and divided. So those are a couple legal changes that are going to make a huge impact this year, bringing back out this bee-killing pesticide, rolling back the emissions issues, and the gutting of the Clean Water Act, not to mention. Now, while the UN is trying to pass resolutions and everybody in the world is trying to advance, there was even a thing called the Conference on Biological Diversity, where almost every country signed a treaty saying that they would be very cautious of maintaining biodiversity in their country. And I do want to bring up that America, as one of the largest producers and users and creators and exporters of pesticides, did not sign that. So we have not committed to maintaining biodiversity. So please remember, when you think that maybe somebody out there is at the steering wheel, remember that we're not interested in biodiversity policy-wise in our country. So we need to fight for it. And the best thing is we live in a time where all of us have a voice, all of us have a mark we can make, all of us have a way that we can make a change. Voting is one of those very powerful ways, and going to opensecrets.org, checking out who's there, seeing what's happening, that is the way that everybody is going to really be able to know what's going on. Now, that I think is a super important aspect, because again, when you think of Cancer Alley, you think of 6,000 times the national average rate of cancer in those areas due to pollution. And now what little protection those people had just got rolled back. We're already at a critical balance, so we can't be in a place where we step back. And so again, I want to just stress that, this isn't about politics or political parties. In a sense, they're division theater. What we need to think about are these businesses that are casting this shadow onto society. So what that means is it's putting society in the dark, and then the companies can run around and do whatever they want. Meanwhile, people are focused on politicians because we're in the dark, we're in the shadow. So think about that John Dewey quote. Think about the fact that there are companies at work doing things we don't know about. Keep in mind the public relations, when it was first born in the 1930s, was called propaganda. The first book was Bernay, Propaganda. And then it turned into public relations down the road. So we have to remember that we think there's this autopilot happening, and there really isn't. So again, look for your politicians, look for opensecrets.org. Great website, and it just shows you everything that you need to know about who's in charge of your area, what's happening in your area. And then I'm also going to put down there a couple more links for a few more websites that are going to be able to help you guys find. I'm going to be able to help you sort out, which companies are behind which laws, because there's actually tracking sites now, and I'm going to put those links on there. And the very last one I wanted to show you is, you can't really see it right now. It's called the IUCN Red List. Now, why is this important? The IUCN Red List is a list. It's a collection of threatened species that is continually updated, and it's a living, breathing database. So you can cut through all the politics. And what I'm going to do is I have it on the screen on YouTube. You can check it out. You can type in where you live. So, for example, I'm going to type in California. Now, when you do, you can type in your area, and this red list will bring up everything that is in your area that is going to go endangered. So, for example, you can see the California condor. It's increasing now that it has protections. That's another one that is now in danger. Is the eagle in America? The eagle is in a lot of danger, and this is another reason I ask everybody, be patriotic. Be patriotic to your surroundings, not your party, because when we lose the bald eagle, we lose not only our symbol but a lot of other things. So it's an important species. It's a keystone species. We need to take care of it. California sea lion is back up. There's an animal called a California nutmeg. How fascinating is that? I didn't know that. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. The IUCN Red List. You can go in, type your area, and look at what animals are endangered, because you need to think about building that's going to go on there. You need to think about development. You need to think about what's in store for your politicians. So again, very complicated topic today, but we have to understand that deregulation is bringing lawmaking decisions down to local level. And on these local levels, when you go to opensecrets.org, you're going to find a lot of these people who don't make that much money. They're local politicians. They are getting big chunks from the industries that need to pass permits in their municipalities. So everything appears to be a working system when in fact what's broken about the system is in fact the system itself. And everyone that's fighting in Florida can tell you that. I guarantee that. Now, there are legal things coming up. There's the Rights of Nature movement. I'm going to put a link down there for it. You can go to the Rights of Nature movement. There are areas all around the U.S. trying to get municipalities to respect nature and give it the same rights. Now, if that sounds crazy to you, you got to remember that there's Citizens United that gave a company the same rights as a citizen. And now they're fighting to have nature have the same rights as a citizen, which is the only way legally that nature has any chance of being able to sustain itself in a world of business. So anyway, guys, it's a kind of a short episode today. I'm going to put some links down there. I just wanted to let you know, next week I'm not going to be here. Next week we're going to be taking the week off. Well, not really taking the week off. I'm going on a campaign to work on a project that I can't really speak about at the moment, but I'll be updating you guys. It's international, and I'll be sending some clues and updating you. And then we're going to be doing a live conservation conversation from overseas and reporting on a couple things overseas as well. So I'm very happy. The show's growing. Yes, Stacy, will you have the links listed somewhere? Yes, Stacy, I am actually, as soon as the show ends, I'm going to go ahead and type them out, and they're going to be right here on the Facebook page, right on this spot here, and they're going to be on my YouTube page. So as soon as we're done, I'm going to add it right here to this particular. You just come back on my Facebook page, come back to this live broadcast, and you will see the links added. And those links will help everybody get an idea of places that they can look and learn about what's happening in their local areas. Hey, Axel. Hey, good to see you, Axel. Axel's a good friend, and now over on the East Coast area. So, Michelle, happy Thanksgiving, safe travels. Thank you. And listen, I want everybody to have a good time with family this week. I hope everybody has some time to, and please, during the holidays, it gets very intense. People get very emotional, but don't let the state of the environment bring you down. Don't let the way things are at the moment bring you down, because everything can change. Everything does change, and everything historically, if you look back on it, always has changed. Thank goodness. So on that note, I would just want to say, remember, we have the ability to make these changes. Take some downtime, do a little bit of research, know your local candidates, know what's happening. Local voting has never been more important, especially now that we've lost the EPA. We've lost the one veil of protection that we had between business and the environment. And now we need to become that thing. We need to become an EPA. We need to step in where the EPA has failed us, and we need to ensure that we can do that. And the only way we can do that is by, number one, making sure that you're shopping consciously, and number two, you're voting consciously. And everything that we do, we should do for the future, because just like the rock in the pond, the ripples go on way beyond things that we can see. So every time we make a change for the better, we act out of kindness, we fight to save the planet, we have started a ripple effect. And the more and more of those that we have, the more that we can get it. You know, Pete Seeger was once asked, and he said, well, do you really think that you can make a difference in the world? And the way that he described it, I think really makes sense. Hey, it's my cousin. Hey, Mindy. Thanks for joining today. So what he said, and I agree 100%, is he said, well, listen, you know, if we can change, then if you imagine it's one of the scales, it's the weight scale, and one has just a ton of sand on it, so it's uneven. But if we just move one pebble of sand to the other one, one pebble of sand to the other one, one pebble of sand to the other one, eventually it's going to shift. And we have to remember that each time somebody's mind and heart can be turned on to think about the future, think about their kids, think about their grandkids, think about the world around them, we have to just vote out of what is going to be best for that. And again, go to opensecrets.org. Forget about politicians. Forget about politics. The real politics has to do with what's happening in our world. Is our world making us sick? And you know, we have to fight for that. And we already do, and it's super impressive. And we've already have a great voice. And luckily, you know, almost all around the world, all governments will listen when people stand up. I mean, Hong Kong's a great example of what's happening right now. And in America, we can do the same thing. And, you know, I think that we're all in agreement, no matter where we are politically, that politics need to be used for the betterment of our society and to ensure the health, safety of our future generations and our children. So that's why I say go to opensecrets.org and be conscious that the votes you're making are the votes you're taking for the environment and for the future. Forget about all the noise, white noise everybody's throwing around. They're just talking anyway. It's just politicians. I don't think anybody believes them anymore anyway, right? I mean, this is 2019. It's not like 1870 where they're campaigning and we're like, wow, really? That sounds amazing. You know, we're all way, way more advanced than that. And we live beyond the story of the political speech. So, hey, Mindy, happy early Thanksgiving. I'd love to see you guys. It's great. It's always nice to see family here, and I'm very lucky. You know, I have family in all different areas throughout the country, and it gives me a unique perspective, because every area has a perspective on how they see the world and how they think we can save what we have. So, you know, again, let's find ways to get the conversation going. Let's find ways to move forward together. Let's find ways to remember that we're all one team. You know, politicians and companies may divide us, but we all have, I think, the same heart and the same goal in mind. And that is to do the best that we can for us, for our kids, for our future, for the world around us, for our cats, for our dogs, for everybody. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you all for joining today. It's been wonderful. I'm very excited. I can't believe we're on episode 16. You know, this just started very short while ago, and we have some really exciting things planned. We have some big shows planned. We're going to do some traveling. The show is starting to going to be able to get more guests, and we're going to start to do more inventive things with it. We are getting more and more popular on iTunes. I'll put the link on iTunes as well. Spotify. You can watch it on YouTube. You can always watch it here on Facebook. And if you're watching it on Facebook, you're getting the behind the scenes. And if you're watching it on YouTube, you're getting the polished version. But either way, it's a conservation conversation. And again, we're not going to be here next week. So everybody, please have a wonderful week. I hope everybody has a very warm and love-filled week. And remember to center yourself, act through kindness. Remember that we're all eco-Roombas, and everything we do, everything we think, everything we say, and every action we take changes the world around us. So remember, it's our world. Let's talk about it. Thanks for joining, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. All right. Have a great Sunday.